All right, hey guys, we're going to talk about slope-intercept form today. The H stands for horizontal lines. Okay, horizontal lines are flat, right? They look like this. Okay, horizontal is zero slope. Okay, when you have zero slope, you have something where it's y equals a certain value, a number. In other words, for an example, y equals 2 or y equals 17. Okay, those are examples of what a horizontal line looks like. Then we have our vertical lines. Okay, remember vertical lines go up and down, and those are lines that are not functions, right? Because the x repeats. Okay, vertical lines have your undefined slope. Okay, undefined slope. And in this case, these ones have x equals some value. That's the way we write this. X equals a value. So in other words, x equals 2, right, as an example, or x equals -7, right? Those are examples of vertical lines, and those have undefined slope. Now, we're talking about slope-intercept form. This is y equals mx plus b. Well, on graphs, m is our slope, right? Or we like to say rise over run. And sometimes we like to say change in y over change in x. Okay? B is your y-intercept. Okay? This is where it intercepts on the graph. So you're going to have it at 0, y. Okay? That's your B. Okay, that's what B stands for, and y equals mx plus b. So, whenever you have your slope, you're going to see words like every and each or per, right? These are some words you're going to see in word problems. For B, you're going to see words like initial or starting point. Okay, so in word problems, those are some that you're going to see. Okay, so this is the setup for slope-intercept form. Y equals mx plus b. Remember, m is your slope, b is your y-intercept. Okay? All right, so now if you need to, pause or go back. I'm going to move on. Okay, so now we're going to talk about identifying the slope and y-intercept. Well, in order to do this, we need to make sure that it's in y equals mx plus b format. Okay, so the format. Okay, that's the way the format needs to be. Okay, number one, real easy, y equals x minus 5. Now there's this invisible number that's in front of x, and it's 1. So that tells me my slope is 1, or m is equal to 1. Now, notice I have a minus 5. Okay, and the formula it says plus b. So that means that b is equal to -5. Okay, or in other words, the y-intercept is 0, -5. Okay, so that's another way to do this. All right, now let's look at number 2. Number 2 is written a little bit differently, right? We have y equals 13 minus 5x. Notice right here. Okay, so we can rewrite this to be y equals -5x plus 13. So now it's in that format. We change it to plus 13 because that's a positive 13. This is a minus 5x. That's why that's -5x. Now we have it in the format. So this helps us. Okay? So this tells me my slope m is equal to -5. And you know what? Mr. Moreno likes to do -5 over 1, right? I forgot to do it on this one. This should be 1 over 1. Okay, why do I like to do it in fractions? Because it's easier to see the rise over the run. Okay? So my slope is -5 over 1, which means my b is equal to, well, that's a plus 13, so it's going to be a positive 13. In other words, the coordinate is going to be 0, 13 for my y-intercept on the y-axis. Okay, number 3. It's not in y equals mx plus b. It's almost in that format. Okay? We can write it as y equals 4x minus 2 to help us clear it up. We notice that the number that's in front of x, the coefficient, is 4. So this tells me my slope is 4, or Mr. Moreno likes to say 4 over 1, right? Because we do rise over run. Which means my b is minus 2. So then it's negative 2, right? So then that means that my y-intercept is 0, comma, negative 2 on the y-axis. It's easier for us to graph if we know it's in that situation. Okay, so if that's the case, we're given these sets. And with these sets of slopes and y-intercepts, we're going to put them in slope-intercept form. Again, recalling that slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. Okay? So it tells me my slope is negative 1 and my b is a positive 3, right? So I start off with y equals. Now, do we have to put a 1? No, we don't. Because remember, 1's like that invisible number. So instead of putting 1, we can put negative x. But it's okay if you want to put negative 1, that's fine. You can go ahead and do that. Negative x plus 3. Because my y-intercept is a positive 3. Okay? Then we move on to the next one. Y equals 4x. Now sometimes we would write plus negative 2. But remember, when we have a plus and negative, it's really saying minus. So in other words, this one's y equals 4x minus 2. So this is the correct formatting that we need to keep. Okay? So if we do number 6, we have y equals negative 5x minus 8. You see how we changed that format? It wasn't plus negative 8, it's just minus 8. Okay? So this is the way that we write it in slope-intercept form here for all three of those. If you need to pause, pause. Okay? All right, so I'm going to go ahead and clear this. Now we're going to focus on some graphs. Okay, we got these 3 graphs. Using these 3 graphs, we're going to write in slope-intercept form. Okay, first and foremost, I need to find my slope, rise over run, and I need to find my y-intercept, those 2 things. So I look for the y-axis. So here's my x-axis, just in case you can't see it. And here's my y-axis, just in case you can't see it. Because sometimes those lines bother me, right? If you notice, my y-intercept's right here. Well, that points at 0, positive 1. So that means to tell me that my b is equal to 1. Now I just need to find my slope. Well, my slope's rise over run, so I pick 2 points. Any 2 points that are on the line.
2 over 4.
Okay, so I picked this point right here. I already have my y-intercept, so I'm going to start there. I'm going to go my rise, 1, 2, so that's a positive 2. And then my run, plus 1. So my slope is 2 over 1. So now that I have my y-intercept and my slope, I know that my equation is y equals 2 over 1x plus 1. Now I know what you guys are thinking. I have a fraction here. I didn't have a fraction on the other ones. It's okay. You can put the fractions on the other ones if you want. All right, so let's go ahead and go on to the rest. Here I notice right there, there's my y-intercept. It's at 0, 4. So this tells me that b is equal to 4. Okay? Now I need to do my rise over my run. So I need to pick any 2 points. Okay, so I'm gonna pick this point here just to help me out. Okay, I'm gonna do something different. Okay, now I notice I'm going down. So when I go down, that's a negative 2. Then I'm going down 1, 2, negative 2. But then I'm going to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have a positive 4. So my fall, my rise, is negative 2 over 4. Now can we have it like that? Well, we gotta reduce, right? Reduce. Okay, so we reduce negative 2 over 4, and we get that my slope is a negative 1/2. Okay, now that I have my slope and my y-intercept, I can write it. Y equals negative 1/2 x plus 4, because b is a positive 4. Okay, now we look at number 9. Okay, Number 9 is a tad bit different. You'll notice there's something special about number 9. Okay? What kind of slope is that? Pay attention to it. Okay? So here we're looking for B first and foremost. Here's B where it intercepts the y-axis. That is at 0, -5. So that tells me that B is equal to -5. So I want to show you an example of how we get this type of slope. Well, here I go. I'm going to pick any 2 points. I have a point there. I'm going to go ahead and pick a point right here. What's my rise? Well, I'm not going up or down. So my rise is 0, right? So rise over run, rise is 0. But my run is 2. Well, what is 0 over 2? It's 0. Okay? So this tells me my slope is 0 slope. Okay, remember I can go to the beach topless, but I can't go bottomless. Remember that? Okay? So my slope is 0. Now usually I would write it like this. Y equals 0x minus 5, right? Okay? Now, what's 0 times anything in the world? It's 0. So really that just cancels out, which leaves me with y equals -5. Now if you go back into your earlier notes, we were talking about horizontal lines are y equals a value, some number. Well, that's a horizontal line. Notice the horizontal line equals your y-intercept. Okay? That's very, very important. It equals your y-intercept. Okay? If you need to pause, pause. Okay, so we're going to go through some graphs. We're going to graph some of these in y-intercept form. They're already there for us. Okay? We got a couple of questions to do. Okay, when we do this one, notice there's that invisible 1, right? There's that invisible 1. So my slope is really 1 over 1. Remember, Mr. Marino likes to do fractions. So you do rise over run. Okay? And then that tells me that my B is +3. It's +3. So in other words, my y-intercept's at 0, 3. So that's on the graph. So I can go to my y-intercept. 1, 2, 3. I know that's on the graph. Sorry. Now that I know that's on the graph, okay, I go up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1. And then I can just connect the points, right? Okay, there's my line. So then I do my next one, okay? Right here, I know my slope is -1 over 2. So remember, negative, that means I'm probably going to go down. And my B is equal to 6. So that means that my y-intercept is 0, 6. So I go to 6 on the y-axis. That's right on the very top, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, it starts out, but now it's -1 over 2. So since it's -1 over 2, that means I'm going to go down 1. So I go down 1 over 2. Down 1 over 2. Down 1 over 2. Connect the dots. Okay? And that is my graph. Pause if you need to pause. Okay? All right. So now we're moving on. Those last ones we're telling whether it's horizontal or vertical. Okay? Y equals -2. That is horizontal. Maybe we can just do H and V, right? It's horizontal because it says y equals a value. Y equals a value. Okay? Number 14, x equals 0 to x equals a value. So that's vertical. Okay? Number 15, I have y equals a number. Even though it's negative, it's still a number, right? So that's horizontal. And now number 16, x equals a number. Doesn't matter if that's a fraction or a negative fraction, it's still a number. So therefore, that one's vertical. Okay, you see the difference in the two? Y equals horizontal, x equals vertical. Okay, another one, this is 0 slope, this is undefined slope, right? Okay, so write an equation for each horizontal and vertical line. Let's look at this. My slope is 0, right? Mr. Slope, remember? Okay, and my y-intercept, and it's going by 2s, be careful, 2, 4, 6, is at 0, 6. And since it's horizontal, I'm going to be using my y-intercept. So this tells me that this equation for this graph, y equals 6. Okay? So now I do the same thing for 18, right? Except 18 is a vertical. It goes up and down. So this tells me x is going to be equal to something. Well, what is x going to be equal to? Well, what's the value of x on the x-axis? It's -2, right? That's where it intercepts. That's at -2. So that's actually -2, 0. That's the x-intercept. Notice it's parallel to the y-axis. So in other words, for here, we use the x-intercept to get us my equation. So we have x equals -2. Okay, and that's how we do everything in slope-intercept form. You may now work on your assignment.